Welcome to Follow Me to the MROP, a podcast dedicated to the journey of the masculine soul and the transformative power of initiation. My name is Brian Mueller. I live in suburban Dayton, Ohio, and I made my rites at Pilgrim Park in Illinois in 2014. I'm your host, and in each episode of our show, I'll sit down with one man who has made his rites, and I'll invite him to tell his story. This won't be an abstract explanation or a theological lecture, just a real conversation about what it was like to cross that threshold at the rites and what changed afterward. Before we begin, a quick word of gratitude. This podcast is brought to you by Choosing Presence. We believe that the greatest gift a man can give his community is his own presence. In a world of constant distraction, Choosing Presence provides the tools to help you stay grounded in the now. If you'd like an easy way to begin learning about the practice of presence, you can download the free Practicing Presence app at choosingpresence.org/app. Now, the Men's Rites of Passage, or MROP, is an experience designed to help men move from the first half of life into the second, shifting from a focus on ego and achievement to a life of meaning and soul. On this show, we just don't talk about the rites in theory, we talk to the men who have walked the path. Today, we are joined by a man who has made his rites, and we're going to hear exactly what that journey looked like for him. My guest today is Dan Vanoli. Brother, I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for making the time and for being willing to share your story.
It's good to be here, Brian.
Dan, tell us where you're from and how you spend your time these days.
I am from Dayton, Ohio, and I'm retired. I'm 80 years old, and I spend most of my time volunteering down at my church. Okay,
Yeah.
uh, so uh, that's basically what I do. I work in the food pantry. I give the Saturday morning devotion to the folks that come in off the street for breakfast, and and I help with the managing the church affairs.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's a terrific way to spend some time. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about the Men's Rites of Passage. The MROP is a unique experience. It's not a retreat or a workshop. It's an initiation. And many men arrive at the rites at a crossroads in their lives looking for something they can't quite name. So before we dive into the why and the how, let's start at the very beginning. So where did you make your rites and what year?
In 2013, I made my rites at Camp Bristland, and it's close to Madisonburg, Pennsylvania, also close to State College. Okay,
Yeah.
that's where I did it. It's it's as you go through the Pennsylvania Turnpike and you see all the names of those mountains,
Right.
it's on the side of one of those mountains.
Okay. Sounds like a beautiful location.
Yes, it was. It was.
So when you think back to that weekend, what's the first image or feeling that comes to your mind?
Well, um, the first image,
Yeah,
uh,
or feeling that comes to you.
well, I think I sort of had an apprehension. I was determined to do it. Okay, and there was a little bit of fear. Um, because of the unknown. Uh, and I think I had a little bit of humility because I knew I wasn't going to know anybody there, except I did know the head weaver. Okay.
Yeah. And now, in general terms, what was that weekend like for you? What was that experience taken as a whole like for you?
Well, it was an awakening. It really was. I Where I was in my life, I just needed something, and it was sort of a demarcation uh, for me to go in a different direction, so to speak. Uh,
Yeah. Now, who was your weaver and about how many men were there?
my weaver was Joel Blanc, um, and boy, this is all the way back to the time when he was actually a, a, a a youth minister at a church in State College,
Right.
and there were about 40 people there, about 40 men.
Great. So, without sharing anything that you'd consider confidential, are there a few moments during the rites or a few rituals or elements from the rites that really stood out to you and impacted you?
Yes. Uh, there were there was one Reich that uh, kind of wowed me and kind of it just it kind of shocked me. Um, and it was without going into detail on it. You know, I had read Adam's Return obviously before I went on my rites, but this was a rite that uh, involved the interplay between Adam and God, and it was just it, it just wowed me. It was so well orchestrated and so surprising and so touching that it really had an impact on me.
Now, this is not a short event. It takes place over the parts of 5 days, 4 nights. Is there a particular moment or memory or something like that that really comes to mind from those various days and nights that you spent at the rites?
Oh, there's several. There's several. Uh, we began each morning with a sit, and as we processed, it was dawn. The sun was coming up, and this one day we passed by this tree, and there was a blackbird in the tree, and it was squawking, and all I actually sang this, and some people joined in with me. Morning has broken, uh, which is uh, even though it's a Cat Stevens song, it's also a hymn in the United United Methodist hymnal. You know, but it just really felt appropriate. That is one that sticks with me. Um, Actually, that's the first time I really did any drumming,
Mm.
and um, I could tell you that I was nervous for a lot of the sessions, and it was just amazing after 15, 20 minutes of drumming how it just seemed like there was a rhythm with the other men that were there, and it just calmed me down, and it was sort of almost like what's supposed to happen during a contemplative fit, and it was happening while I was drumming,
Right.
so that was that was memorable. But
Y
go ahead.
No, you mentioned 2 things that are probably new to a lot of guys that show up at the rites, and that's the contemplative sit and the drumming.
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe we should do some drumming at the beginning of these interviews, huh? Get us all in a rhythm and a flow. So let's talk a
Right.
little bit about why you signed up for the rites. What circumstances led you to participate and what was going on in your life at that time?
I I like I said, I was a volunteer at church even back then in 2013, and we had a new pastor that came in, and basically he fired me. And and uh, uh, I thought it was unjust. I don't make a wage or anything, and basically he ran me off, and I was just going to overreact and chuck everything and just say that I'm done with church altogether. Um, and I luckily luckily I ran into Joel Blanc.
Mhm.
I had gone to a conspire out at Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he was one of the presenters. Now, I had met him a year before in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, at a retreat, which Richard Rohr was the retreat leader.
Right.
And he and I talked there, and so I approached him at the conspire, and he talked me into going. And I was ready. I knew uh, that I had some problems, and I had some anger, and I had to work it out. And I just made up my mind I was going to go.
Right. Yeah, an invitation from Joel, that's wonderful. So, what were you hoping for or even afraid of heading into the rites?
Well, I was hoping for a new direction. I um, and I was afraid of the unknowns. I mean, it's I knew that we were initiates, and we were going through these rites, and I wasn't sure what to expect. Um, I think at that stage in my life, I thought it was time to put away childish things, as the scripture says,
Right.
and I just I just started to clean myself of things uh, that were important to me, but they were things that just enhanced my ego. And really, I can see that was part of the difference. Sometimes when you decide you're going to pursue spirituality, your ego is still in control. You know,
Yeah.
you're 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 not only going to be the saint, you're going to be better than all the other saints. And 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 that was the wrong attitude. Uh, and that's uh, that's what I knew I had to work on. And in all honesty, Joel was the only person I knew at my rites of passage,
Mhm.
and luckily he was the head weaver, and I had a tremendous trust in him. So whenever he spoke, I took it as gospel, and that enhanced my rights by just paying attention to everything that Joel said, and uh, I uh, I I I had to learn humility, and because again, if you're in with a group of men, you're still fighting that desire uh, to belong, and not only to belong, but to stand out sometimes, which is really crazy. So that's what I was working on.
It sounds to me like you're saying that, going into the rites, it's really helpful to have someone you trust, whether that's Richard Rohr from his teachings or a trusted man like Joel who invites you to participate and who's there with you.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Now, think back to, the time. So the rites have ended, and there's the closing rituals and everybody's saying their goodbyes and it's time to go home. What was that moment like for you when you left the rites and began your return to your daily life?
Well, um, one thing that one thing that I had planned and it worked to my advantage was I went straight from the rites to visit uh, a very close friend who lives in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, who was the best man uh, at my wife's and I's wedding, at our wedding.
Mhm.
And uh, I heeded Joel's instructions, and I had made mistakes like this before to um, to let everything process. Um, you just can't. Uh, in all honesty, I'm I'm using words here to describe what happened, but you can't describe it. You have to experience it. And uh, I let myself process it. And if people asked about it, I just gave them a very short answer.
Mhm.
But uh, there's no sense in spilling the beans, so to speak, because they're not gonna they weren't there. They're not gonna understand.
Right.
So I think it's something that I reverently held close, um, and uh, I knew I was going to use it. I knew I was going to use it, and if if they didn't see a difference in me, then it didn't work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does take time, to kinda let the rights settle and your experience to kind of, come to some sort of realization. So when was that moment? How long did it take for you to kind of, feel the full impact of the rights on your psyche and your spiritual journey?
I think I think it took to where I was bound and determined to find uh, uh, more initiated brothers,
Mhm.
and it really fueled me to get in touch with Chuck Grimm, who was the convener for Ohio, and he started directing me to people that had been through the rites, and it helped me to say I went all the way up to Cleveland for uh, his group, and he said, "You don't need to come up here. There's some people down in your southwest corner of Ohio." And so I contacted them, and we started a group down there, as you well know. And that's when it really started to have an effect. When you start to have a kinship with the brothers, and you start to have your small groups, and you start to realize how much you have in common. Um, that's uh, that's it.
Well, the rites are a communal experience, so it makes sense that community would follow that experience.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about, the friends and family aspect of this because, a lot of men that come to this, they have to, check with their partner, friends in their people in their lives that they trust, and they impact the decision. So, did you have family members, friends, community? How did they respond to your decision to participate in the rites? What was those conversations?
Well, I was lucky. They supported it. They could see that I was troubled. That I was uh, that I needed something, and they supported it 100%, and they affirmed uh, that it changed me. So
So afterwards, people around you noticed the changes immediately.
yeah, yeah, they did. Um,
And would you say that they would those people in your life, like your wife, still support the rights today or would encourage others to attend?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes, and for that matter, even my sons.
Mm.
As you know, we've had some father and son events,
Yeah.
and they attend with me, and it's good because it's something that I hope for them someday.
Right. Now, it's been more than a decade since your rights, but, since that time, you've gotten much more deeply involved in your own spiritual journey and Illumine as a community. What would you say has changed in your life practically, relationally, spiritually, in that time, in the 10 plus years?
Well, I think I think the main thing is that I was so wrong in misguided by my masculinity. Um, and it was objectification. It was it was toxic masculinity, and it helped me to realize just just how wrong I was about a lot of things, um, especially especially women, you know,
Mm. Yeah.
and and even my own feminine side. Uh, I think that's the biggest thing, and it just it expands your consciousness, your awareness of uh, just how wrong some of the things that you grow up and you laugh at, and you even use terms that are degrading and domineering, and patriarchy's one of the lines I always use is, uh, that history was shaped by male egos,
Mm. Yeah.
and a lot of it is toxic. A lot of it is toxic, and uh, i- i- it's wrong because uh, the world would be a more peaceful, a more open place if we realize that. And we actually worked in community both the male and the female elements.
Mhm. I'd like to affirm, Dan, the impact that the rites seem to have on your life. You and I met at Solarize, even though we live in the same southwest part of Ohio, but we didn't meet until 2014 at the annual gathering of Illumin, which was in New Mexico. And during our first conversation, you mentioned how your original plan for retirement was to, travel, do many of the things that you really enjoyed doing, like visiting horse tracks and that sort of thing. And it was what we would consider a very conventional retirement that was focused on all the things you didn't get to do while you were busy raising a family and working and those sorts of things. So kind of focused on just your wants and your desires, that sort of thing, you and your wife. But you had changed things dramatically. You and your wife both had gotten deeply involved in a church in Dayton, dedicated yourself to that, and that became a community center in downtown Dayton. And you've given so much of your life, I think, post your working years to service for others, and that includes the men's work. And so, from what I could tell, these rites had a huge, huge impact on how you spent your life, the later years of your life.
Yes, I don't know uh, what I would have been like uh, if I had not gone on the rides. And I had friends that had gone on it, and I really thought I didn't need it. And again, that was my ego talking.
Mhm.
And but I can tell you that it was uh, it it was like going through a doorway to a different life where I had different wants and different desires than when I, uh, was on the other side,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, threshold experience. So I just have one more question, and in that you can also add anything else that we failed to address that you want to talk about with the rights. But what kind of counsel would you offer a man who's discerning whether or not to participate in the rights?
I'd say I'd tell the person that I understand your reluctance. I fought it for years, but if you want to grow up spiritually, if you want to free yourself from that trap of toxic masculinity and narcissism, you must surrender to these rights. Give it a chance, and you will come to know yourself for the first time, and you will love the person you find. That's what I say.
Amen. Well, brother, thank you so much. Truly, you're very dear to me, and I really appreciate your honesty, your courage, and thank you for giving us a window into your MROP experience. And I know had it not been for the MROP, you and I probably wouldn't have ever met. And we've been in community together for more than 10 years. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Brian. You are a brother and a friend.
For those listening who are now feeling a tug in their own soul and are curious to learn more, allow me to share a bit about the history of these rites. The men's rites of passage was originally developed by Father Richard Rohr and was first offered at Ghost Ranch, New Mexico in 1996. While it was supported for many years by the Center for Action and Contemplation, since 2012, Illumin has been the steward of this work, preserving and adapting the rites for men all over the world. To learn more about the history and the theology behind this work, I highly recommend reading Adam's Return by Richard Rohr. If you are ready to make your rights, there are 4 opportunities in the United States and another in the United Kingdom in 2026. The first is in Northern California, May 13th through the 17th. The second in the United Kingdom, July 22nd through the 26th. And in Illinois, August 12th through the 16th. There's one on the East Coast in New Jersey, September 16th through the 20th. And the final one of the year is in Texas, which is in MROP and Umbrales, our Spanish language rights, September 30th through October 4th. You can find details and registration information at illumin.org/MROP or illumin.org/events. Additionally, mark your calendars for Awaken, the annual national gathering of Illumin, taking place November 5th through the 8th in New Mexico. You can find more at illumin.org/awaken. Finally, a special thank you to our sponsor, Choosing Presence. If today's conversation moved you, I encourage you to bring more intentionality into your daily life. Download the Practicing Presence app for free at choosingpresence.org/app. It's a simple but profound way to stay connected to the journey we've discussed today. Thank you for listening to Follow Me to the MROP. Until next time, brothers, stay present.